Quick preliminary announcement. There's no fire alarm scheduled, so if the fire alarm does go off, please leave straight away in an orderly manner down the stairs you came up, and we'll gather in the car park. Very unlikely, but you never know. We've got 5 members of the public wishing to speak tonight. The general rule for all of us, actually, for anything we want to say is 3 minutes each. So I'd be grateful if you could keep to that. And then you're welcome to stay as long as you wish for the business of the evening, or leave as soon as you wish. So maybe we could begin. The first on my list is Amanda Gazidis, speaking to us on the World Heritage status. So welcome, Amanda. It should work if you just speak into it.
So, I stand here as a representative of many of the people of Glastonbury to give a voice to our varied and deep concerns on the exploration of World Heritage status for Glastonbury. Last month, we touched upon the theme of communication, thanks to Sidika, and how this could effectively be improved. And this month, I would like to bring your attention to the theme of trust between the constituents and the council, which is vital. I would argue for us to have pride in our remarkable small town and would assist it to thrive. How then can we build bridges of trust? I've noted the wording on the council website. We are committed to transparency, accountability, and ensuring the voices of the community are heard. I would argue that regarding the World Heritage issue, this has not been the case. We, the community, have been shocked, outraged, and appalled, and I've spoken to many people over the last few months by the lack of accountability, transparency from the outset when 2 consultants were hired back in December 2023. Whilst you are elected representatives, you are still accountable to us, the people, and should both inform us and listen to our valid opinions. We have had 3 public meetings last year and a public debate on the December the 6th regarding World Heritage. And what have you done to address our very real and well-researched concerns? One councillor in my ward did email me back to propose a People's Assembly, so thank you for that. However, a far-reaching and accurate survey and a public consultation is still needed, and you have not acted upon our request for one. For trust, there needs to be ethics. There is a code of conduct of councillors, and one of them is, I ensure the public resources are used prudently and in accordance with my local authorities' requirements and in the public interest. I would argue that there's been a vacuum of public transparency, and when we, the public, discovered that £10,533 has been spent on the wages of the consultants, we were naturally angry. A lack of accountability too. If there is a disparity in the amounts that we have quoted, is that our fault? We have spent hours, days, writing emails to our local councillors and our local MPs to little or no avail. Some have said that despite emailing 6 times the same councillor, that there was no response. I personally emailed my local MP about this important matter with no reply. Does this build trust? Do we trust in the media as well when they state in a recent article on the 14th of December that 200 signatures were on my petition when there was in fact 900 at that time? And I would also argue that the press is not a mouthpiece for our councillors to discredit and disregard our real and tangible concerns. The words erroneous, uninformed and misinformation have been used with regard towards us, the public, and our views. A code of conduct is necessary and councillors must follow this, even in public or media statements. They should ensure their comments are respectful, truthful, and in line with these. Your reputation and trust is important to us. Public comments should not undermine the reputation of the council or erode public trust in local governments. Our trust is being rapidly eroded by the lack of listening and misrepresentation of our views and concerns. Lack of honesty does not inspire confidence and trust in some of our elected representatives. One councillor on the 14th of December on Somerset Live claimed, when we went to the public to ask their opinion, we didn't disseminate the information to begin with. This community then makes up what it doesn't receive. I would question, when exactly did you go to the public to ask their opinion? The neighbourhood plan leaflets surely don't count. They reach 6% of the population.
Amanda, I just mentioned it's well over 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll just stop. Okay. There is no good grounds to form a working group for the WHS, steered by a councillor with a vested interest. It is, after all, £30,000 in the pot, which could be used in ways to benefit us, the community, directly. Can we trust you to follow the principle of selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, and honesty? This is a fundamental question, one we would like to be addressed and answered. If this is a democracy, then our voices need to be heard and heeded. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think it's a bit of a theme for tonight. No. So
I thought.
Hold on a second.
The public was able to contribute. Now, I didn't know you had to book ahead for this evening.
So I'm afraid you do have to book ahead. We've got 5 people speaking tonight. So I'd like to call the next person.
It shouldn't be debated. It ruined Glastonbury. In every European
So, excuse me.
capital that you dump money, local people will be out of a home.
Excuse me.
It will be very expensive.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back again another time.
So you're welcome to take part in public participation, but we do need to register. So I'll call the second person, which is on the same theme, I believe, Siddiqa. Do you want to come and speak to us? Try and keep it within 3 minutes if you could.
Yeah, so thank you. I'd just like to address the terms of reference for the Working Party, which is going to be discussed later today. Just to say, I asked the town clerk on the 27th of November if residents could be involved in the drafting, and that he said it would be referred to the committee, the current committee, but I haven't heard back. Sorry, is that good? Is that better? Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to run through a few points. So I've actually sent this document to all members of the council, and I'm hoping that you'll cover these points when you discuss it later tonight. So I'd like to get some clarity about what the function, what the purpose of the working group is. Is it just to liaise between the council and the Glastonbury community, helping to disseminate the consultants' what they're advocating? Does it have any real teeth? Can the Working Party commission its own research and publicity and be funded by the council in equal measure in the same way that the consultants are, so we can make the playing field more level? And then it's talking about giving recommendation, the Working Party giving recommendations to the council. So on what basis would any recommendations be made? Would this be like a majority vote or a unanimous vote? Talking about the working group's tasks must be completed no later than September 2025. Is there a definition or an idea of what these tasks would be? It seems it would be rudderless and difficult for residents to apply if there's a lack of clarity here. And do they need any particular skills or experience when they apply? And on what basis has the end date of September been picked? According to a conversation I had with one of the consultants at the Frost Fair, he said that the consultants were going to prepare a paper to present to the council in autumn 2025, giving options. And then the impact assessment wouldn't happen until 2026. So surely the Working Party would need to continue beyond September 2025 to be useful. Yes, and it's making a final report on the recommendation of the full council. and it doesn't seem clear what there's supposed to be 5 phases for the bid for WHS. And in terms of the timing of that, surely the working party should accompany that to a greater extent. With the membership, members of the community will be selected to serve in the working group through an open recruitment process. So what will be the criteria for selection? Is there an application form, and can we see that? And who will decide who is selected from the public? And are there any particular requirements? It says people living outside the town who the council think may merit being brought into the group might be brought in. And can residents also request that other people outside of Glastonbury can be brought in? And what about representatives from Glastonbury Abbey or the National Trust? Would they be invited, or would they be like expert speakers invited? And it says the advisory committee shall meet as often as required. And so that's very vague. How can people apply if they don't know the extent of their commitment? How many, what day of the week it will be, or what time would work for them? So that needs to be clarified. The quorum for meetings, it says 6 members present, of which 2 should be town councillors. That seems very low out of a total of 16. And then there's the Nolan principles, which would be great if that's all applied. And then administrative support. The town clerk said that he would be responsible for summonses, agendas, reports, and minutes. So it would be helpful to have some guidelines about that to see, how in advance the agenda would be sent out. And also an additional comment that somebody has made.
So that is 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
If you wouldn't mind wrapping up. So.
Yes, so just one more comment. Do we actually need a working party for WHS? Would it not make more sense to actually have it for the bypass and restricting development around the Tor, which seems to be the main reason why the whole thing has been brought onto the agenda with the Green Party? So that's a question. But it's just really does this working party really have teeth? Is it a whitewash? Is it really going to be effective? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you, Sadiqa. The terms of reference for the working group, as you know, are on the agenda tonight. And I'm going to propose, as soon as we finish this, to move it to the top of the agenda so we discuss it straight away. Okay? But I'd like to move on and call Barbara Olioso to speak on communication between town councillors and the public. That's us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I'm here to talk about an essential need I believe the Glastonbury community has, and that is clear, accurate and responsible communication from the town councillor. And this need was really born recently from events that happened last month, public statements done in writing and verbally by town councillor claiming that the World Heritage Site would protect the land around Glastonbury from development. This is an utter, complete lie. I contacted the Campaign to Protect Rural England, the CPRE. They have explicitly stated the opposite. There is no guaranteed way of protecting sites from blind development. The main protections actually come from the local plan, the national planning policy framework, and special designations such as the Mendip National Landscape. And I shared this very statement, the complete statement, with a couple of councillors, and I never heard back. Then again, on the 14th of September, on Somerset Live, and Amanda has quoted that, the same councillor made a definitive statement about the Tor's future management, specifically about access charges and boundary structures, despite lacking the authority to make such commitments. These decisions ultimately rest with the National Trust, and we don't know what's going to happen to the Tor if the number of visitors increase. They might have to put these kind of restrictions in place. So these instances reveal really a broader issue. We need stronger guidelines for the town councillors and the way they communicate with the general public. And I would like to suggest 5 criteria to add to the town councillor's code of conduct, which currently is unavailable on the website. I believe it's under working, but who knows when it's going to be up and running again. I don't know what your code of conduct is at the moment. So I would like to suggest a commitment to accuracy. Councillors should avoid making definitive statements without proper substantiation, particularly on complex issues like the World Heritage Site implications or the tour's future management. This will also be helpful to prevent any financial and legal liability in case of a lawsuit. You can't talk on behalf of other organizations. We also need clear guidelines for media relations. When councillors speak to the media, they must explicitly distinguish between personal views and official town council positions. If it is official town council's positions, they should be published on the website first, so they are accessible to all community in Glastonbury, rather than having to read on the Somerset Live, BBC, or maybe the Daily Mail next. Third, we must establish really a standard of respectful dialogue. And again, in one of these articles, one councillor claimed these residents' concerns as mad. It's totally unacceptable that the constituency that voted the town councillors is treated like that. I don't think this is a respectful way of addressing the Glastonbury community. Fourth, we need reasonable, responsible time for constituents' communications. I appreciate you're busy, you've got a lot going on, but there has to be a system in place to acknowledge and to handle people's emails. I sent several emails. I don't know how many people in these rooms have sent emails. Who has received a response? Finally, I would like to suggest implementing a regular newsletter on the council website, keeping residents informed about major projects like the town deal, the neighbourhood plan, the World Heritage Site. There are reports in the pipeline by the consultants. When are they going to be published? Who knows? So I hope you appreciate these 5 criteria that just aim to improve the quality and the clarity of communication in our community. Thank you. And I have here a copy with references for all the town councillors, where you can see all this media stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Very useful. I'd like to ask Carol Poole to come and speak to us about a community project.
I'm currently registering a social enterprise, and I anticipate it being replicated around the country, but it's starting here in Glastonbury in what I like to call the Smile of Avalon. Now, it's called We Are Changeals, and it's about being the change that we want to see. It's not just about raising people's spirits and dispelling some of the doom and gloom that we've all been under. It's about setting up a neighbourhood network, or a neighbourhood network, of people helping people in the community. If they're facing a challenge, such as they've just been told a loved one is in hospital and they've got to rush to their bedside, they need somebody to look after the dog until family can step in, the neighbourhood network can actually fill in those gaps. They can take over things. It can be, for example, a collective challenge such as another pandemic or a flood. You've spoken about the resilience and emergency committees. People can make use of the community coordinators. They'll be trained in first aid, know where the defibrillators are and things like that. A neighbourhood network would be the first port of call. They can step in, summon help and do what's needed immediately. I'd like to take up some of the funding opportunities that were outlined by Phodo Higginson of SALC. I've left a message for her. I'd like to know what the possibilities are with the support from the community and the council. I'd like to know whether or not it's possible to use the shop that's been empty at Windmill Hill. That's been empty for a long time. That would be a good community base to start a network up in that part of the town. We can start setting up the community networks. Some of you know that I already run bereavement befrienders in town. I've been doing that for a couple of years every Monday. I run a Don't Be Lonely in Avalone lunch club. I do all that at my own expense, and my own expenses now are diminishing seriously. So we need some help and support. We also need to honour our elders because they are endangered. They are an endangered species, and all of us in here are actually elders. We need to honour and cherish our elders and share their wisdom and their stories. And remember the impact of Harry Patch in Wales? When he told his story at his late age, the impact it had around the world. And I get to hear amazing stories from people in this town, and we are in danger of losing our social fabric of history if we don't capture some of these wonderful stories. So I'd like to know what you're going to do to help. And also, the town deal has been mentioned once or twice. Now, some of you may or may not know that in the early days of it, I put forward 2 projects and they were both accepted. And we were ecstatic. And then somehow or other, the goalpost got moved and we were out. And I would actually like to see some of those proposals that got put in the first instance. And I remember myself and my sister and my other colleague sitting there on the sofa at that first talk, and I know 1 or 2 of the councillors were in on that at the time, and we were absolutely overjoyed. And now it's been sidelined for us, and I just don't quite know where it went. I did want to speak to Tina McEwen, and she implied that I dreamed it. And on that note, I'm leaving it to you. So I'd like to know what you'll do to help set up this neighbourhood network so that we can have a community of support of people helping people like they used to. You know, the milkman would deliver the milk, and if you saw somebody's bottles of milk still outside the next day, they'd summon help to see what was going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. If you've got anything in writing about all that, can you make sure you leave a copy with Connor or one of us to pass it on? Thank you. So last, but obviously not least by any means at all, I'd like to invite Ravi or Leela to come and tell us about the ashram in Glastonbury, which you may or may not know is on St John's Square. Looks like Ravi.
Number 6 Church Lane.
Do you want to come to the front, and there's a microphone for you?
Thank you, Lokbandaju, and thank you everyone. We are deeply grateful for this invitation to introduce ourselves this evening. And please forgive us, this is our first time here, so we don't know the process and procedure. We didn't have anything ready. We just came to say hi to everyone and just introduce ourselves, what we are doing, who we are. So me and Leela Didi is here to represent a small charity in Glastonbury called Sri Bhakti Seva Trust. We have a small ashram at the top of the St. John's car park. It's number 6 Church Lane. And we are just trying to create a welcoming environment, a welcoming space. So it's an open space for the community. Right now, we are a little bit limited with the capacity and resources and finances. So we try to serve our community twice a week. Every Wednesday, we serve free food, lunch food in front of church, just opposite to Co-op at 1 every Wednesday. And every Friday evening, we do some devotional singing, evening kirtan, and then we serve free food again. Whoever comes, our door is always open for them. But we also want to do this service more and try to spread peace, love, and spiritual harmony in Glastonbury. For that, we are here also to introduce ourselves and seek your support, your guidance, because all of you are doing great work. And we are just very new. We are a 3-year-old charity, still learning, still trying to spread more love, more food, more harmony among the community. So that's all. But I would like to, if Leela Didi wants to add anything.
Well, just to say at the moment we're serving between 30
free food plates a week, up to 400 in the summer. And we've got a kitchen that's falling apart. And although the food is given free, it's not free for us to provide. And if there is any help available, we would be so grateful, because our hearts are bursting to really serve the community more with free food. We're very aware that many people are going through difficult times. If you come on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock, there's usually already a queue forming before we're there. So many people are grateful. Even if it's snowing, we're out there, the team are out there. Everybody's volunteers in our ashram. No one gets paid. And all of our offerings, whether it's kirtan singing or meditation, is free. And we have a regular temple program based on Vedic principles. Our Gurudev is in India. So when he's here in the summer, we serve many, many, many people with so much joy and love. Where we fail a little bit is on the money side. So we are applying for funding. We're very new in this area. So if anybody feels in their heart to help, to guide, to support, our aim, and Ravi is very, very focused in free food. He wants to serve every day the community on the high street. So we really want to give more. And so any help is gratefully received by us, because we're babies, really. So we'll leave it there, I think. Anything? No. Thank you.
These guys do such a good job. And this started really about 8 years ago with Nana. You guys just had it taught. So they do such beautiful food. It's blessed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, just want to say thank you again for listening us, and we are really seeking your advice, your support, your guidance in this, because I believe together we can do this, and our aim is that nobody in Glastonbury sleeps empty stomach. So that's what we really want, and we will be happy to come together, get some guidance, get some support. And one thing just want to add personally, because this is my feeling towards Glastonbury. I was born and brought up in a very diverse culture, in a diverse country, different peoples following different practices, different faith, thousand name of God with different pictures. But when I came to Glastonbury, I didn't thought, okay, I'm going to UK and I'm gonna found that little India here. Everyone is following different things, doing different practices, but together we are a very diverse and very united community. And I love about this Glastonbury.
Thank you very much.
How can we get in touch? Have you got a website or an email?
We have a website, we have a Facebook page, and currently actually our website is under development, but our ashram name is Sri Gaur Kripa Dham, and our charity is called Sri Bhakti Seva Trust. So we can.
I think I know it, so I'll make sure the town clerk circulates it. So we should move on. We've got 22 items on our agenda tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next thing thank you everybody for your public speaking. What I'd like to do now is light the unity candle. I think whatever the opinions have been expressed tonight, we all share a desire for Glastonbury to flourish. That's our town motto. We're all here because we wish Glastonbury to flourish. So I'd like to invite Amanda or Sadiqa or both to light our unity candle for us. Then we'll stand for the silent minute and proceed with our agenda. So it should just work if you click. Yeah. Thank you very much. So may Glastonbury flourish. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So we do have 22 items on our agenda. And we'll do a couple of preliminaries, and then I'll ask if we're happy to move the World Heritage item up the agenda. So first of all, any declarations of interest, fresh declarations of interest that need to be recorded?
Expecting apologies first, Your Worship.
Oh, I do apologise. There you go. That's the first one. Any apologies?
I've had apologies from Councillor Oakden, unfortunately feeling unwell, Councillor Price owing to family commitments, and Councillor Napper, not an apology as such, but advised me that he's likely to be late this evening because there's a meeting over in Street happening. They're the apologies that I've received, Your Worship.
I think that is actually all of us. Okay, thank you for that.
I have apologies from Councillor Hart, and I have been sent the blue notes for the unitary councillors' presentation. I can send them on to everyone.
Okay, thank you. Cool. So declarations of interest that are not already recorded? Nope. Can we do the minutes of the last meeting, which you should have seen already, but we need to approve them? Are they somewhere in this pile here? Is this one for me to sign?
Copy for you to sign. I'm just putting it up on the board.
So they're going to flash up on the screen
Copy
if
for
you're
you
interested
to
to read
sign
them.
is that one.
Thank you. So page 53, this is the minutes of 10th of December.
Projector's just warming up.
The first page is not very interesting. Okay, so minutes of the last meeting, page 53. Page 54. Oh, yes. Page 55. Yep. Page 55. Page 56. Page 57. And not quite, page 58. And the last one is page 59. So I take it we're happy with the minutes. I would advise. Thank you very much, everyone. And can we receive an update from Connor on actions
Yes,
from the
Your
last
Worship,
meeting?
a nice quick update. The grant application working group met. We decided what the Town Council was going to apply for. A first draft of that application has gone to SALC. I had a meeting with FODO only earlier this afternoon, the Health and Wellbeing Officer at SALC, and I'm progressing that application in line with what the Council has agreed. There is a members group are going to look at the Charter for Compassion. I understand you've met, and perhaps there's an update later, Your Worship, maybe in communications and announcements. Excellent. and that we've noted that there's going to be a future agenda item in regard to twinning. It was agreed at the last meeting that you'd look into it once a few other projects have completed and there's a bit of capacity between councillors and also the staff team. So that's an update on actions from the last meeting, Your Worship.
Thank you. So item 8 is the terms of reference for the World Heritage Group, but I'd like to propose we move it up to take it now, if anyone's happy to second that. Seconded by Paul? Second. So are we, all those in favour of moving it up? Anyone against? Okay. So I think
a majority, Your Worship.
Yes, it is. Might be unanimous. So item 8 is to consider the terms of reference for the World Heritage Status Working Group, and that was what Sadiqa was commenting on in her public participation. Councillor Cousins, are you happy to introduce this to us?
Thank you. Before Christmas, as a result of the lack of communication, I suppose, from this council in a way that has been useful to our community, I suggested that we could perhaps set up a working group that could engage with the community about the World Heritage Site potential and whether or not the people of the community indeed would be supportive of this or not. So Connor and I sat down and drew up a terms of reference for that working group. And I note that we've got some comments from the community here. Indeed, you read out your comments. And so I'm not sure how much time we've got on this, Your Worship, but it might be worthwhile just sort of answering a few of these points as well. A working group of this council is an advisory committee in law. An advisory committee is made up of members of the community and can comprise members of the community and councillors, or it could be fully councillors. But as this is about the community, Connor and I felt that the membership should be community heavy and councillor light. And essentially, the functions of the group are item 2, and it says this working group will support the council's engagement with Glastonbury community. And that essentially is what it's there for. What it's about is whether or not the potential of us going forward for a World Heritage bid is something that our community would support. And therefore, that would be the point of this working group. It would be able to bring together people from all areas of Glastonbury to come and talk to it about the impact perhaps of World Heritage. And that could be people from the Abbey, National Trust, the tourist group, maybe the Chamber of Commerce, etc., could come and talk to that group. It could also be researching more into the impacts of World Heritage status in other areas. We didn't want to create too restrictive a function for this group because it would be down largely to this group to work out how it would move forward with this and what it would like to learn as members of the community. Once it has achieved its aim, it would present a report to the council, and that would be timed with the period towards the end of this year when Glastonbury itself might want to move forward with this World Heritage status or not. If the working group finds out that the majority of the people of the town are against moving forward with a World Heritage proposal, that will be the end of the World Heritage proposal, because one of the main criteria of UNESCO is that the community must support the bid. It's as simple as that. What I would say is that this is the very beginning of the process. This council hasn't moved forward with any formal proposal to UNESCO or to this UK government about World Heritage status. It's just exploring the potential of it. And so this group would be able to hold events, bring public together, use the town hall, etc. It might decide to do a survey of the whole town. I hope that it will, in which, in a very similar way to the original working group of the neighbourhood plan, put a survey through every letterbox in town. It's something that I think would be a very worthwhile thing. So that's the function of the group. It's been left vague, I suppose, because the working group should have full autonomy of itself and what it would like to do. Recommendations that it makes will come to this full council. Now, in law, the town council does not have to pay attention to the recommendation of a working group. It would be down to the councillors sat around the table how they feel about it. I remember the working group that looked at this town council's shield and motto many years ago, and remember when the mayor received the recommendations, he tossed them aside and didn't comment on them. I hope that this council will be more respectful of the community than it has been in the past. What I hope is that we will pay attention to what this recommendation is from the group. Membership, as I said, should be community heavy. Who decides who will be on that membership will be the council, as it will be an advisory committee of the council, but it will be against criteria. Now, that is something that Connor and I talked about, and what we hoped would be that the application process would be people writing a letter to the council, I believe this is correct, on why they feel they should be a member, and stating their reasons for wanting to be on the group and giving an indication of their commitment. Councillors would then shortlist those and try and create a group that represents as many different views within the community as possible. But one of the essential key points of the membership is that they would have to follow the code of conduct. I'm sorry that it's not available on the website. And oh, it is, okay, and the Nolan principles. And so, just like the councillors, that would be really the basis of the committee. The criteria for selection really would be down to the quality of the people applying, I suppose, in relation to what they say about why they want to be there. I would think that, remembering other working groups I've been sat on, enthusiasm is a great thing. Somebody who feels that they can stay the course to the end of the period of time. The group itself will decide how often it meets, when it meets. That's something the council wouldn't interfere with. I'm just checking out the other representatives of Glastonbury Abbey and National Trust. I think that it would be wise for this group to perhaps invite members of the National Trust and the Abbey to come and speak to it. I'm not sure whether there will be anybody from those agencies who wish to apply to be on the working group, but I'm sure they'd be happy to come and speak to it. I think that if you imagine that this working group is trying to engage with the whole of this community, it's going to be an undertaking that will require some time and commitment, and therefore, how will people know the extent of their commitment? I would think that if you're worried about your commitment, don't apply. Once we've approved the terms of reference, there will be a recruitment process that will be published on the website and through various other means. I expect Connor would talk to that if you wish in a moment, Your Worship. Quote 6 members present. We found with other working groups, and I remember the 5G working group, that sometimes when things get very tough on a working group, you need to have a core of people who are willing to take it forward when other people's commitment can't perhaps be as resilient. And so 6 members, I think, would be about right from my previous experience on working groups. I would suggest that the 2 town councillors should be part of that quorum, to show commitment from this council. I don't know if there are any other points that have been raised.
If there are, they might come up in our discussion. John.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So we've used these terms of reference very similar to terms of reference from other working groups that we've set up, Your Worship, and I would recommend to the council that we approve them tonight so that we can begin to promote the recruitment to the community, and hopefully we will have many more than 14 people apply. Thank you.
Second that.
Does anyone else wish to speak about this? So hold on.
There is no code of conduct on the website.
Okay, so we'll look into that. So public participation's finished, so you're welcome to listen, but please let us discuss amongst ourselves. Would anyone else like to speak to this in terms of reference for the working group?
Yeah.
Councillor Cotton.
George, I have one question here, maybe straight for John. When you say the survey, okay, it's great to deliver a survey to every house, absolutely fantastic. But you can't rely on the people to necessarily return them. So I would suggest that you put in there that you will not only just put them out, but you'll give them 7 days and then go back and collect them. Oh. And I think that can be done via lots of different people. Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I take Nick's point, but I think if anybody gets something through their letterbox and they're interested enough to fill it out, they will fill it out. If they don't fill it out and return it, they're obviously not concerned. And I think it's quite a big job to make sure that everybody gets a survey in the first place. To actually have to go back and pick them all up again is asking a lot.
Sure.
Your Worship, may I reply? The model of consultation, I think, is what happened with the original consultation with the neighbourhood plan. The working group at that time spent quite a bit of its meetings putting together a questionnaire that it felt wasn't leading, that was asking the right sorts of questions. And it came out as a little booklet that people had to fill in. Members of the committee may remember this. It was in 2016. And the response rate that we got was incredibly high. I think it was between 60 and 70% of the population returned this form. And we made sure that at the time, it was publicised through the papers, through the internet, through websites, etc. And town councillors and members of the public delivered it, and then it was able, I think it had the capacity to be posted back to us, and also it had the capacity to be delivered back to the town council. I would suggest that we would have to probably spend some money on a survey like this so that people can complete it and pop it into a prepaid envelope so it can come back, etc. But that would be something for the working group to consider.
Sure. I believe Councillor Henson seconded this.
I did.
Are we happy to move to vote on it? Okay. So all those in favour of adopting the terms of reference of the working group as I think that's unanimous. Okay, that's great.
Well done.
Should we also find out who amongst us wants to be part of it? You're proposing there's 4. If there's more than 4, we'll need some process between ourselves to whittle it down. So could I ask who wants to be part of this working group amongst the councillors? Oh, is that a hand I see up? 2 hands, 2 hands.
Okay.
Really difficult.
So mine is about process. I love process.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind being, I need to know the commitment. I don't want to overstretch myself.
I would be very interested in the process that is taken and gone through, and I'm obviously neither one way or the other.
Councillor Smythe?
Bear in mind the weight of tonight's agenda, can we leave this for internal communication from the clerk and recruit that way?
It would be better if you chose the councillor members this evening, because it will be the councillor members who have to go through the applications from the public and consider who's going to be on the working group. I would prefer if council were to make a decision tonight which councillors are going to represent the town on this working group.
Councillor Cook.
No, I'm afraid I can't really get involved with this, I don't think, because I've definitely got a conflict of interest with it, potentially, because I would get the Airbnb, simple as that, if it was to go ahead. That's absolutely sure, like a lot of my friends are already doing.
So why don't we find out who amongst us is interested?
Can I repeat my request for time? We all have got a diary. It's a very weighty time commitment. And I think the councillors here.
Worship, as chair of the committee that's been attempting to look at the potential of this, I think that councillors should put themselves forward tonight. I think that would be only right. We need to move forward this as quickly as possible, and we need to be able to start the recruitment process tomorrow, I hope. So if no one else is willing to be on it, I certainly would be happy to put my name forward as a member. That only leaves 3 for you to find, your worship.
Okay.
I'm afraid I can't, because my work commitment is just too high already.
Okay, so we're looking for yeses. Councillor Much.
Yeah, I think I might, but because I'm interested in it. But can you just give us an idea of how long it's likely to go and for how frequent meetings might be?
It's going to finish by September.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It may have quite a lot of work to do between now and September, I would say.
Would you?
Yep. Councillor Don Francesco.
Sorry, yes, I don't know if I made myself clear. As I'd like to be part of the People's Assembly, I feel like I have to be part of this committee anyway, so I put myself.
That's fantastic. That's 2. Any other volunteers?
Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Manning.
I'd be interested in standing on this. I'm already on the World Heritage Council Committee. So I think the Bridge there was very heavily involved with change of commerce. Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 4. So we have got 4, but have we got more than 4? That's what I'm looking around. No.
Yeah, you can fight us.
Have we got more than 4? I'm looking around the room. Nope. Serena?
People can, on an ad hoc basis, your worship, councillors can on an ad hoc basis nominate a substitute if they're not going to be able to attend a meeting. So that's not a problem.
Sorry, as just said, Margaret isn't here, and she may want to.
She may want to. You're quite right.
And yeah, also Zoe. So maybe if we keep it like that for now, and then see if they make a stronger case.
So I think we've got 4. That's great. You can sound out Margaret and Zoe, and then if necessary, whittle it down between the 5 or 6 of you.
Sure.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Well done.
I think we can move on. Can we note the latest crime statistics report? Item 5.
So we've had an update from the 2 updates. Both were in your pre-reading. Let me see if I can get them both up. So there is a general update from the neighbourhood team. This was an update provided for the Town Centre Crime Reduction Advisory Committee. So this was provided by the Sergeant.
Any comments on that?
And this, your worship, was an update from the beat manager, PC Higgins.
Yeah, Councillor Cotter.
Thank you. I'm definitely happy to see that they claimed 2 cars for no insurance, but, and this is a big but, I saw that they had some chap down the road here the other evening, which they put all over social media, and they were very happy with themselves. But I am rather certain that we've got more than that around our town in different places, and I'm not being thing, that are not taxed, MOT'd or insured. And why are they not looking at them? That would be my question to them.
Drop my line, Nick.
Yeah, I already
Okay.
have.
Good.
Thank you. Anything else on the police report? Okay, so we'll move on to the money. Follow the money, schedule of payments. Sorry, Councillor Francesco.
Sorry, it's very quickly. It was mainly on their graph that they produced to say about the percentage of arrestees and what they're for. I did note, and it's a little bit carrying on from what you've just said, there was a graph of the link that we gave. There was the prosecutions. It wasn't how many people are actually it's taken forward seemed to be absent. So I'm happy to take this up with PC Higgins.
Sure. Yep. Schedule of payments?
Oh, sorry, Worship.
Okay, so hopefully we've seen this in advance and hopefully sent any questions to Connor or Jane or our new RFO. Whose name
Not quite yet, Your Worship, but yeah.
Yes. I will mention we do have a new responsible finance officer being appointed who's starting shortly. Who's called Melissa, I think?
Michelle.
Michelle. Yep. So hopefully we'll meet Michelle at some point.
I didn't get any questions in advance, Your Worship.
No.
I've got a copy.
Quite expensive now, but hopefully all in the budget.
Making good progress on St Dunstan's house. That's why it's an expensive month.
Yes. So are you happy for me to sign off on this? I will sign. Thank you. So next, but related, is the budget monitoring report. About 9 months through the year. Can you sign that as well? There.
And Your Worship, I didn't receive any questions on this in advance of the meeting.
So the middle column is the, cancel it when you do one, sorry.
So yes, so I didn't email Connor because it was more going to be a request for the town council. When we get to comment number 15, which is the tour bus contribution, we've only got to 14 so far. Oh, 15, the tour bus contribution. If you remember, we put in for the full thing this year, 30,000, and then we got half the money from Somerset Council, which had been paused previously, but because we're going to unitary, we weren't sure, and Somerset Council being in financial doo-doos, we weren't sure whether they would do their contribution, and they did. And I was on behalf of the residents of Windmill Hill. Is there any chance that the bus could actually, if we've got this little bit of extra money, extend beyond its 6 months? So at the moment it's 1st of April to the end of September. It would be really helpful for the residents up there if we could have a month or two either side from that extra money that hasn't been spent.
And that's why I didn't actually email it to Connor, because I've talked with him before and he said that he did talk with Mendic, a community who run the thing, and they hadn't got the space to do it this year, but we've got that extra money. Could we carry it forward to next year and maybe get community transport to give us an extra month or two? Because it is vital. I only have to say that to the people who live on the hill, to be able to get down for their shopping and prescriptions and doctors and all the other reasons that older people who don't have transport need to get up and down to town.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it might be more useful around Christmas time rather than March or October.
Just an extension. That's all I'm asking for. We could debate the extension. Connor would need to talk with Mendip Community Transport about when it would be possible for that extension to happen. But it was something I wanted to bring to the whole council to ask them about.
Oh dear.
Yeah, you live up there, don't you?
No, I don't anymore. If you wanted to carry that forward, what I would suggest is, as councillors, you start discussions between yourselves about what you might like to see in terms of an extension to the service, whether that be the route, the times of year, combination of the two. I did, when I had my meeting with Mendip Community Transport, I did raise this, and they said they don't have the capacity to do that this year, but they would be very open to a conversation and putting together some costs for an extension to the service in future years. Now, obviously, in the budget, I believe, for next year, we'll get onto it later in this agenda item, I believe we've revised that contribution back to the level that we have to offer. Now, that was done basically to keep the increase as low as possible because of what else is in the budget in terms of a capital purchase, which is a one-off. So it is, of course, up to full council. You might wish to actually tonight decide that you're going to revise that back up and then see what impact that had across the wider budget. But I would suggest starting to have discussions as councillors, and then what we can do is ask the gentleman, the transport manager from Mendip Community Transport, to come and have a meeting with us to see what we're thinking, to go away, to do some sums, and then to come back and talk to us so we can see what the impact would be for future years. Now, we wouldn't be able to achieve that for the budget as of April unless we stuck our finger in the air and took a bit of a guess. But certainly, I think it is worth a more detailed discussion with Mendip Community Transport, and it certainly could be something that could be quite easily achieved without an additional increase in year, and so Councillor Ronnie Dougal will not like this because it's dragging on for another year, but if you wanted to do it without an additional increase, the year after we've made the capital purchase would be a year to do it. But certainly start having discussions. Let me know once you've had discussions as councillors what you're thinking and what you might like, and then we can ask Mendip Community Transport to come and speak to us and we can scope out any increase or changes to the service you might want for the future. That's my advice.
I just suggest that we also talk to Susanna Clements, who works sort of tirelessly on bus issues.
She does, yeah. So we could ask you, Connor, to find out how much we'd get, what we might get for the money.
Either do it that way, Your Worship, or you could meet as councillors, decide what scope what you might like, and then see how much it's going to cost. It's a little bit 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. We could ask both questions simultaneously, but it would be good, because I know it's been mooted in the past that perhaps a change or an extension of the route might be useful as well. So I think those conversations need to happen in tandem. So I would say that.
I'm aware that when we have a need for conversation, it quite often gets lost. And so I'm wondering how and when we can actually have this conversation. Would it maybe be the climate emergency group, because bus transport could come under that remit, and particularly with regard to Susanna, as Lilith has mentioned, or would it be through some other group that we would have that conversation? I know it's no good to have it now. We've got too much on the agenda. We've got too much we need to do, but I'm raising it. This is as it came to my mind.
Councillor Cottle?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, as what Serena suggested, if you're going to put it in some little subcommittee that I don't normally attend, I want some input on this. So I will need to know in advance, please. Okay.
Councillor Smythe.
As Nick indicated, I think it's important the 4 ward councillors for St Edmunds
Yeah.
included in the conversation. And I think between them they could have a conversation electronically before any SEAC meeting.
Maybe that's the way forward, Serena.
What is the way forward?
For the 4 ward councillors to
Yes.
put our heads together and just to start discussing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be good. And that way you'd be involved, Nick, wouldn't you? And
I would be involved, yeah.
Andy and John.
Yeah.
And we could then, because we are the Windmill Hill people, yeah, okay.
Councillor Cousins.
Perhaps we could do it when we meet for a St Edmunds Community Hall meeting. Perhaps it could be an appropriate thing to tag onto that.
Okay.
Yep, that'll work.
Does that need to be a proposal?
Yes, please. Can you minute it so that it doesn't get lost?
Yeah, I will note it in the minutes that you're going to have this discussion, but it doesn't need to be a proposal because
No.
you're going to have a discussion as councillors and it will come back to a future meeting. But I'll note it that you're going to have the discussion and you'll come back at some point when you have an idea what you'd like to ask Mendip Community Transport.
So that's great. Now back to the budget monitoring report, which we were halfway through.
Sorry, I've ended up scrolling to the end, Your Worship. Were there any particular questions?
Councillor Osborne, sorry.
I'm concerned really about the tribunal because it seems to be not just a bit adrift, but a lot adrift. And apparently there was overestimation and staff issues. Could somebody perhaps expand on that, please?
I can certainly try and give a bit of extra insight. There was a draft budget brought to, I believe, the Property and Assets Committee when we looked at taking on the lease in the tribunal building. That was accepted by the committee at that point and was entered into the budget. Now, in terms of the staffing issue, so it took us longer than expected to, 1, recruit for that position, and then 2, we had some staff turnover in that position that was overseeing that. So the tribunal wasn't open as often as we'd wanted it to be. So yes, it's twofold, and there's not much to expand on. It was an overestimation of income. I think it was underestimated how many English Heritage members and Glastonbury Antiquarian Society members who get free entry would take up that offer in terms of visitor numbers. So the proportion of visitors through the door who were entitled to free entry was underestimated. The income generally was overestimated and it wasn't open as much as we'd wanted it to be.
Surely if you didn't have staff in post, the outgoings would have been less than projected.
Oh, sorry.
I think there was also an underestimation of the actual cost. So we had an idea of utilities and rent, but the alarm system in the building, which is vital to the building, is actually very old and needs a surprising amount of maintenance. And I think there were other costs associated with the building, that it being our very first year taking it over and no one really having run it properly for probably 5 or more years, it was just an underestimation. However, now that we have the staff in place and we are attracting more events and more bookings in the tribunal, I want to see that improve for next financial year, and it has been revised for our budget for next year.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Conor may have answered this, but can correct me if I'm wrong, but although the anticipated income is way down, the costs of running it are way down as well, aren't they? It's that we had overestimated the costs. So what we've lost in one way, we've saved in the other way, surely.
Maybe the heating's not on when we're...
I'm pretty sure it's scheduled to make a profit in next year's budget.
Am I right in thinking that, Conor?
Well, I have just scrolled down to that, Councillor Henderson, and yes, we forecasted expenditure of 39,890, and we actually spent 8,808, so we're down £31,000 on expenditure.
Yeah.
So yeah, so to use a colloquial expression, it comes out in the wash. But it was our very first year. There were things that hadn't been anticipated, but we've certainly done our best for this year, and I know our Museum and Information Centre manager is very excited to have a good programme of special events, not just good exhibitions, but special events and bookings in the tribunal come next year.
So we should move on. I've just got Councillor Cousins.
Just a point of clarity, Your Worship. The Tribunal Town Museum income, is that gross or net?
I wish you'd asked me that in advance, Councillor Cousins, because I could have asked the responsible finance officer.
Because you have the expenditure below it, that is a gross figure.
Sure.
And the net figure will be 12 minus 8, so it is making a profit.
Yeah.
I can certainly refer that to responsible finance officer, and I will get you a written answer on that one, because I haven't done that maths, and because I don't administer the finances, I wouldn't want to state an incorrect answer, but I will get you a written answer.
Anything else on the budget, or can we move on? Budget monitoring, rather. Okay. So an update back to you, Connor.
Noted, Your Worship?
I think so, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
So back to you, an update on progress at St Dunstan's.
Thank you, Your Worship. The contractors are beginning to make the entrances from what will be the new atrium space into the main hall. Yep. So that's why the main hall's not being used for this month, because we are creating 2 new doorways. 2 rather beautiful cast iron radiators came out of the wall with relatively few issues, which was actually very, very positive. The contractors continue to make good progress. They are behind on the overall programme. They're now commencing drainage works between the Town Hall and St Dunstan's House, which will be underneath the atrium. The extension at the back of St Dunstan's House to provide the changing places toilet. The inside is not fitted out, but the outside is pretty much complete. Works inside continue to go very well. I'm pleased to be able to, well, it's already been publicly announced, but we received an offer of £500,000 from the government's community ownership fund toward the capital cost of the project. That's £500,000 less that we'll have to potentially borrow. I also today received the offer letter from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. They have accepted our loan application because we received more grant funding since we applied for that loan to make up the shortfall. The offer letter was slightly reduced from our application because one of their duties is to only encourage parishes obviously to only borrow what they actually need, but that offer letter came through today, so it's valid for 1 year, and we can draw down monies that we need in tranches as and when we need, and only as much as we need. So we've been authorised to borrow up to about £760,000, but considering that we've raised an additional £550,000 of grant funding between the community ownership fund and a charitable donation from a local foundation, that's £550,000 that we won't be having to borrow. I'm also continuing to seek other grant funding. We've got an expression of interest with an organisation, a charity, who is offering capital grants for projects that will benefit people's mental health. So I believe that's for up to £50,000. So we're applying for that. And our South Health and Wellbeing grant will go towards some of the costs of operating the facility in the first year. So it's all very positive. It continues to move ahead, and keep an eye out for the public updates with pictures that I post when I give an update on progress on site.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cousins?
Your Worship, I think we should formally minute a vote of thanks to the clerk for raising £500,000 for the council.
Yeah.
Anything else from St Dunstan's? If you go down into the main hall, you can see the hole in the wall they're starting to make.
Is the gang still there?
It was so another update, again from Connor, our busy clerk, on asset and service devolution from Somerset Council.
Owing to the slowdown before Christmas and the fact that Somerset Council have barely wound themselves up after Christmas, I don't actually have anything to update Your Worship, but I continue to work where I can with the officers who aren't still on annual leave to progress what we need to progress in terms of asset and service devolution. But it's not causing me concern. It's just been very quiet since our last meeting. But I continue to chase, and Councillor Cottle helps me, and I keep Councillor Hart up to date as well.
Any questions or reflections on that? Great. So I think our main item tonight is a budget for the coming financial year. And with that, a part of that is the precept demand we're going to submit to Somerset. So the Finance and General Purposes Committee has considered it in some detail, following Conor and Jane working it out in some detail. There's a recommendation coming from Finance and General Purposes, but it's up to us to accept or modify the recommendation.
So if I may, Your Worship, I've got a short presentation that will just help outline the process that we've followed so far. And then what I'll do is I'll go into the actual budget in a little bit of detail, but I won't take you through it line by line, because there are a couple small amendments that don't change the overall figures that I've made that I want to highlight for transparency for everyone. So in terms of our process as a council, so committees meet in the late summer and autumn and make a request for funding for the following year, because we obviously set our budget now. So they meet from about September to November to consider how much money they've spent this year, what their budget was, what they might want to do in the following year, and then make a request. So a full fat budget, full fat in inverted commas, is prepared by the responsible financial officer and myself, based on those committee requests, potential projects that have been raised either through the year or that council would like to see or has on a long list of projects that perhaps we could deliver in the next year, as well as assumptions on inflationary and operational increases. So inflationary increases are obviously where RPI, CPI goes up and the cost of everything you're buying and doing goes up. Operational increases, if we're doing more, we need more in the budget. So if we, for instance, take on more staff, we might then need another vehicle, and then that's an increase across two separate budget lines that the responsible finance officer and myself consider. So that comes as a full fat budget to the Finance and General Purposes Committee, which meets in December to consider a draft budget. And it looks at what figure is needed to balance the budget between income and expenditure, and that is what you make as your precept demand. A recommendation is then made to full council. You're meeting this evening. So full council, you're meeting this evening, you're going to consider the recommendation, and then you will make a precept demand of Somerset Council. That then gets sent off in a form that they've provided to me by the end of the month, by the 31st of January, for them to put into their magical, mythical machine that then spits out everyone's council tax bills that then starts landing on people's doorsteps from about March. So that's a whistle-stop tour of our process. The committee meetings in late summer and autumn are public meetings. The Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting is a public meeting, and obviously tonight, public meeting. So the committee's recommendation, it met to consider a full fat budget, and it did slim it down. So the actual resolution that was recorded was that following some amendments, Councillor Smythe proposed that the draft budget be recommended to full council with a precept figure of £1,056,000, which represents a Band D precept, a bit more on the jargon about Band D and precepts on the next slide, an increase of 39 pence per week. 76% of households in Glastonbury are bands A to C and will pay a smaller increase. This was seconded by Councillor Ronnie Dougal and resolved unanimously. So a little bit about the jargon. Precept amounts are benchmarked on what is called Band D. So council tax bands are from A to H, D's in the middle, so that's why you benchmark on a Band D. Council tax, the calculation is split into ninths. So a Band D pays 9 ninths, so 100%. A Band A pays 6 ninths, so 66%. A Band H pays 18 ninths, so 200%. Now, we won't enter into a debate whether the old council tax banding system is fair, but this is the system that we have to work in. 76% of households, as was noted in the previous resolution, are bands A to C. So they actually will pay less than the Band D benchmark. But in terms of us setting a precept, every single local council in the country benchmarks on a Band D. So this is the split of households in Glastonbury per council tax band. Now, it was very helpful of Somerset Council to provide this year. They didn't provide it last year. So actually it helps give a bit of context in, although you are looking at a band D figure, 76% of your households actually pay a smaller increase than that. So this next slide is an awful lot of numbers. I'll just get a laser pointer to help try and make a bit of sense. So this is a screenshot from the precept calculator that Somerset Council provided us. So what it shows, basically, the figures in the yellow boxes are relevant to next year. So you'll see on the left-hand side, you've got the council plans, A to H, and a bit of an explanation that I've already given about the nights. So that's where that comes from. So the band D precept proposed for next year is £316.49. In percentage increase, that's 6.88%. In terms of pounds and pence, it's 39 pence a week. In terms of pounds across the year, I think it works out as at £6.09, I think. So that's just a bit of explanation about the overall figures. What I'll now do, Your Worship, unless there are any questions, I'll jump into the budget. I can see Councillor Ronnie Dougal's got a question. Jump into the budget and I'll explain the two little changes I've made and then take any comments. And I do have a version that can be edited if councillors want to look at changing anything around.
So question, Councillor
Yes, so when we get the thing through from Somerset Council and it shows all the increases, will it show the increases the 10% that you've got there, or the 7% that is what Bandy actually pays?
It will show a 6.88% increase.
It will show the 7%.
Yes, because, sorry, that's something I didn't explain. In terms of the money, the increase is 10%, but because the tax base has increased, i.e. the number of tax-paying households has increased, the burden on each household therefore reduces. So the tax base has gone up by 2.92%, and if you subtract 2.92 from 10, you get, actually no, maybe you don't.
So on the form that I get from Somerset Council that shows the different votes that I'm having to pay,
6.88%.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
It might show 6.9. I don't know how many decimal.
Don't worry, as long as it's 7%.
6.88 is the increase to households. 10% is the increase to the money because there's more households paying.
Any other questions so far? Councillor Don Francesco.
It's not really a statement. That was really lovely and really clear and explained a lot even to me who doesn't do maths. Is this something that maybe when we ought to put out in a press release?
So
something like this?
What the plan will be, there will be a release on the website once budget for next year is agreed. But also, last year there was a precept information leaflet that was distributed. It's a discussion once you've decided to agree a budget and make a precept demand, whether you wish to do that again. And actually, the next slide is I'm going to show you the budget. The very last slide, when I bounce back to it. So my recommendations are that you, unless you make changes, resolve to accept the draft budget, noting the presented amendments, unless you tell me, Connor, no, just chuck that money back into the uncommitted sort of budget line, because I've moved a little bit around, but it doesn't change the overall figures. To resolve to make a precept demand of £1,056,000, which is the balancing figure, and to resolve to delegate to me the production, printing and distribution of a precept information leaflet, because it's something we did last year. I have the file on my computer. I can update it with the figures and relevant information for this year. Councillors can meet with me like they did last year if you wish to look it over, but then we need to have it printed, submitted to Royal Mail, and then distributed to households in BA68 and BA69. So they would be my recommendations, but obviously if you make some changes to the budget, you ignore the first.
So one
maybe
more,
the second one.
One more question and then a bit on the budget.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say that I think a lot of good work has gone into this, a very difficult topic, and I think the Finance and General Purposes Committee has done a really good job, and I would like to propose that we accept Connor's recommendations as is.
I think he wants to present us some detail on the budget first.
Yeah, all I want to do is just show two minor amendments that I made, because they're different from what Finance and General Purposes agreed. Did you have a question, Councillor Pheasant?
It was just a point. I think it's the first time in 14 years. I don't know whether Councillor Henderson would or Councillor Collier would care to agree. I think we've seen a detailed breakdown of the council tax base. It's
explained very well.
Yes,
absolutely.
Okay, so back to you, Connor.
So this is a summary page, and what I'm just going to do, so that obviously shows the precept amount, the level of reserves. So that box goes green when it's at least a quarter of this figure. So that's the amount of reserves as a minimum we need to hold. Ideally, we need to build them up, but it's very difficult to build them up without hiking up the amount of money that you raise. So in terms of the differences from the finance and general purposes, this figure is different because this random £96, if I remove £97 from the budget, or from the income, sorry, this box would go red because you'd have less than the required amount in the reserves. Finance and general purposes agreed a draft budget that had £2,096 in this sort of uncommitted area here. So what I've done is I've put it in two separate places across the budget that I felt was needed. So it doesn't change your precept demand, the precept payment. It just means that there's only 96 uncommitted pounds rather than 2,096 uncommitted pounds. So what I will do, Your Worship, I will take the liberty of showing you where I've made the changes. So the first change that I made, I added an extra £1,500 to the advertising budget line. And I did that because we are trying to get our messages out more clearly. But also, we will probably overspend on that budget line this year because what we do is to advertise job vacancies, we generally pay for those to be promoted. So I'm not suggesting there's going to be a load of job vacancies next year, but there is some recruitment that's going to happen. And, you know, for instance, the precept information leaflet will cost at least £1,500 to distribute. So we've never ever spent very much money on advertising. So I added £1,500 to that budget line. Whistle stop tour through the rest of the budget, which is very long. I added £500 to the promoting Glastonbury budget line, which is one of my favourite budget lines, because it's very good at being able to put expenditure into there when you need to, say, produce some leaflets for a consultation. So rather than having £1,000 in that budget line, I added an extra 500. They are the two changes I've made. This was circulated in advance for committee members. I do have this is a PDF version. I've got an Excel version if there are any changes that the council wishes to assess the impact of. But Councillor Henderson has proposed that it gets agreed as is. So there is a proposal there on the table. It will need to be seconded, or Councillor Henderson can choose to withdraw that if you as a council wish to consider any. I'll take any questions, Your Worship.
Yes, any questions? Any, Councillor Manning?
I think it's a great idea to inform the public about precept and getting the message out there. The expensive bit, though, is actually the distribution. And I just wondered if there were other things that information we had to get out there so we could distribute that information at the same time. There's obviously things like World Heritage status, but another thing is, for instance, we've got the annual town meeting coming up.
Sure.
That's something that we could ensure.
Yeah, that's very good. Councillor Smythe and then Cousins. Mike?
Well, Your Worship, I think that it's come up many times over the years about whether or not the merits of having a newsletter from this council, and I wonder if we have inadvertently started with producing last year something that went to all households about the precept. Maybe we could do a quarterly newsletter such as that, but building that relationship up, because it's quite right. Not everybody looks at the internet, not everybody reads local paper. It would be just another way for this council to communicate what it's doing. I think that you know, if we're precepting £1 million, that's only part of what this council turns over in a year. So we're like getting to a reasonable size now that we should be able to promote ourselves to our public on a piece of paper once a quarter.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks, Mike.
Yes, accepting the comments, Councillor Manning and Councillor Cousins. I'd like to second Councillor Henderson's proposal to accept the clerk's recommendations with the adjustments he's highlighted, small adjustments he's highlighted.
Vote.
I'd like to second that.
Councillor McDougall?
I understood it was possible to put this leaflet in with the council tax.
I asked that question in previous years, and Somerset Council basically said to me, because they produce council tax bills for the entire county, it's too complex to only add a leaflet in with the bills that go into Glastonbury. I have previously asked that because in my own parish council we've done that in the past, but my own parish council we just distribute our own leaflet, and unfortunately because of the way that postcodes work, it's not the most efficient because they don't only hit Glastonbury as a town. But it has been explored previously that, you know, there had been an idea that councils would go around and distribute. The problem is there are, you know, we have about 7,000 leaflets printed, and it's a big, big task to go and distribute those. Most efficient way is Royal Mail.
Councillor Ronnie-Dougal?
With regard to that leaflet, I think it would be really good to explain to people that a lot of the increase in our spending is because of Somerset Council going unitary, Mendip District Council closing, and the Town Council having to take on board a lot of the services that used to be run by Mendip, such as toilets, the green spaces, and that we're having to buy equipment, we're having to have extra staff. And I think that if all these things were explained to people about the change in how the Town Council is running, that this would be really useful to put out.
Cool. Thank you. So we've got a proposer and a seconder. Are we happy to move to vote on the... So all those in favour of accepting the draft budget with a couple of modifications? All those against? All those abstaining? So we've got 2 abstentions, otherwise carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Connor.
And we'll note the enthusiasm for a town a newsletter of some sort, or communication of some sort.
Yeah, you haven't added money in that for the budget for next year, but certainly let's look at it, and it may be at the end of this financial year when you look at your year-end accounts, if we're in a more favourable position than we imagined, you could put money aside for that, or there is also a fund that potentially you could decide as a council to take money from. So I'm not saying it's not happening, you just haven't shown it in the budget you've just accepted, but we can look at it.
If we want it to happen, it'll happen, I'm sure.
Yes, if you want it to happen, it will happen.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cousins?
Your Worship, words are very powerful things, and I wonder whether in future, rather than using the term advertising, we could start employing the term communications. It may remind us about why we have that money.
Cool.
I will note that, Councillor Cousins, because we're going to completely restructure the accounts for our new accounting system as of April, so there are several budget lines I want to change the title of, but yes, I will note that.
Okay, so move on. Item 12, an update from the Charter for Compassion Working Group. So I could speak to that. You might remember last month, Andy Spragg from Taunton came and addressed us and encouraged us to consider adopting the Charter for Compassion, which Taunton signed a few months ago. We had a working group meeting of myself, Councillor White, Councillor Price and Councillor Cook and Councillor Osborne, which was a really good meeting. It turned out we had to meet in the pub because the town hall was closed or busy that night.
Shame.
So it may have improved the atmosphere, I don't know, I can't comment. But a very good meeting, and I personally really enjoyed it because it was such a cross-party, a different group of people that I'm used to working with in the town council. I think we all felt quite enthusiastic about the notion of us signing some version of the Charter for Compassion. And one of the features of it is you can rewrite it to suit yourself, to reflect what you actually want to say. But between us, we've come up with a version of it I think we feel enthusiastic about, which I'd like to present to us next month, not this month. This is just an update. I'm in process of consulting others for instance, my interfaith, the Mayor's chaplaincy. I've got a panel of 6 people from across the religious spectrum of Glastonbury, and I just want to see if they're on board as well. I'm also talking to Councillor Knickerbocker from Street, Chair of Street Parish Council, and Louis, I don't know his surname, who's the Deputy Mayor of Wells, who are both interested, Street and Wells, but not yet decided if they want to go for it. So it's kind of moving forwards, I think, quite positively, but I'll come back to it next month, if that's all right.
Thank you.
Any questions or reflections?
Just one quick question.
Handsome, yeah.
When you come back to next month, is it going to be like an almost finished piece of work, or will we have a chance to look at it before we get to discuss it?
I should have circulated our draft tonight.
Thanks.
You can have.
Yeah, I've got one there. Jack, you've got one, I think.
But we'll circulate it electronically.
No, I haven't. No, I'd love to see that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, have a look. Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll circulate it electronically. Yeah. Anything else on that? But I'd like to thank the working group. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item is.
Quick one.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Cook.
Yeah, well, we're not finished yet, are we?
We'll finish this item, or finishing it.
Yeah, no, I know we're finished with it, talking about it, but we've got a lot of work to do on it yet, haven't we? With all the design side as well, of course.
Oh, design is a whole different
Indeed,
question.
a whole
We're just considering the text.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well, it's part of it because it's all got to fit in, you see.
Yes, we want it to look nice, so you could actually sell copies of it, and people could buy it in the shop
It's
downstairs.
the person on the site here who will do it all for us.
Yeah. Okay. So the next item is the annual town meeting, which happens in the spring, early summer maybe. It's been a fairly thin affair the last couple of years. I think that's true to say. So Councillor White and I had a meeting with Connor and Katie, sorry, just to consider what we could do for the town meeting to make it a bit more vibrant. And one item we thought of was to discuss awards. We could make it a bit of an award giving ceremony, as well as dialogue with the town council. So, do you want to speak to this?
I can, Your Worship.
I haven't quite prepared.
You've given a bit of a potted history or very recent history of thinking behind improving the annual town meeting. What quite a lot of places do is, yes, they incorporate a bit of community awards ceremony where you can mark the contribution of members of your community to the community through the annual town meeting and the presentation of various awards. During the celebrations for King Charles's coronation, there were a number of awards given. Every year, annually, the Town Council will award Citizen of the Year. It invites public nominations for that. And for the coronation year, that was expanded upon, that there were volunteering long service awards and also, I believe, don't quote me, a volunteer of the year and a young volunteer of the year, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Thank you. So it had been discussed that perhaps it would be nice to annually make such awards, recognise members of the community who go above and beyond. And it's for the Town Council because they would be awards awarded in the Town Council's name as a recognition from the Town Council. It's your decision which awards you might like to give. So as a starter for 10, you already annually award your Citizen of the Year. It would be quite nice to incorporate the awarding of that into the annual town meeting because it links probably more closely to the annual town meeting, which is not a council meeting, than it does to a council meeting because you're making the award of Citizen of the Year for the town. But also you may wish to consider Volunteer of the Year, Young Volunteer of the Year, and some volunteering long service awards. Now, without wishing the list of awards to be very long, it is within your gift to decide which awards you might like to give. So not necessarily looking for an answer this evening. An indication of which awards you might wish to give would be very useful, but certainly we would be needing a decision next month at the very latest, because we would have to advertise these for public nominations. Sure. You'd have to have an opportunity to choose, And then the people who you have chosen or have been nominated will have to obviously receive an invite to the annual town meeting, which is the second last Tuesday in April of this year. I think that's the 22nd of April.
So, any thoughts? Thank you very much. Any thoughts? Councillor Rennie Dougal.
I think it's an excellent idea, and I've always thought that Citizen of the Year award, it was just the one, and there's always so many people who really do need to be recognised. You've done so much. And this town is run by volunteers. You know, almost everywhere you look, it's the volunteers actually who are doing it. So to actually us to acknowledge that, I think would be excellent. And it would mean that the annual town meeting, rather than being this very few sparse people with only one or two councillors attending, actually it might become, I mean, the Glastonbury in Bloom Awards, wasn't that amazing? You know, I mean, okay, we really had something to celebrate because we'd got gold for Britain, and, you know, it was like, wow. But yes, to have it more of as a celebration of the town would be great.
Thank you. Councillor Don Francesco?
I was just going to say, I'd fully back, and all the categories as well.
Any other thoughts?
No sense on it.
So, it sounds like some enthusiasm. We could go away and think about it more and come back with a definite proposal next month.
Would you like, Your Worship, because I'm thinking about quite shortly looking at opening nominations for Citizen of the Year.
Yeah.
Would you like to start inviting nominations for Young Volunteer of the Year, Volunteer of the Year and Volunteer Long Service Awards as a starter, and then if you want to agree and consider any more awards next month, having had time to think about it, that then they can be added into the options for people to nominate. What I may also do, if I may take the liberty when I've got a form, would be to invite nominations for something that people might not feel necessarily fits into any of those categories, and to bring those to councillors, because you can then decide to make discretionary awards as well if you feel that someone's made an outstanding contribution to an area that doesn't necessarily fit one of those awards. That would be a good catch-all.
Okay. Councillor Cousins.
Your Worship, I think in addition to Citizen of the Year, we should ask Connor to promote the Volunteer Long Service Award, Volunteer of the Year and Young Volunteer of the Year to the list that goes out to the community to ask for nominations, and to remind the public that town councillors cannot be put forward for any of those categories.
Sure. Okay.
Can any of us get a vote?
Should we vote on that? All those in favour of starting this process? That is, all those against? All those abstaining? Got one abstention.
Unanimous with one abstention.
Thank you.
I think everyone in the town should have a medal.
Very good. Thank you. Good. Well, thank you for that. Moving on to note, we're just noting the resolutions of delegated committees. So the decisions have been taken. We are just noting, informing ourselves. Yep.
You're going a bit too fast for me. Sorry, my eyesight's not that good.
Committee.
Tell me when I can scroll.
Carry on. My name is spelt wrong again. No, it's gone up now, Katie. You can't see it. He's moved on.
It's only
there. Two L's. Bad.
One L good, two L's bad.
One L good.
Okay. Carrying on. This was all the Finance Committee. Grants. Finance, oh, that's, yep. Cross-Fair Committee. Planning Committee. Planning Committee.
Your Worship,
yeah.
Whilst planning is on the wall, I wonder whether the clerk has any update on the piece of land that this council was supposed to have been given in relation to the development by the hospital there. It's something that we've pondered over for many years now, and I wonder whether they had any solution.
Would you like to guess my answer, Councillor Cousins?
Send it to us telepathically.
Unfortunately not. Every time I make a little bit of progress with a Section 106 officer at Somerset Council, they seem to change their Section 106 officer. We had a fab day. Every day working here is a fab day, but a file archive bin day between Christmas and New Year. And I found two very old letters that Jane at the time had written confirming that the Town Council did want to receive the land, because we had a short window in which to inform the planning department that we wanted to accept the offer. Now, that was provided to the planning department. It's never gone anywhere since then. So through Councillor Cottle, I've been trying to chase for a decision or an update on that Section 106 agreement. I even have now copies of that Section 106 agreement. Not that I ever thought you guys were dreaming it, but I never had any proof that you were actually offered it. But again, it's just not gone anywhere. So I really, if you could help me chase that, Nick.
Well, I'll have a go, but I'll explain something in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. But every time I make a little bit of progress, the Section 106 officer changes.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
Worship, may I reply?
Okay, yeah.
I wonder whether, if only we had the chair of the planning committee here, we could say to them that no planning application for that piece of land, which is subject to Section 106 agreement that's in dispute, should be put forward for approval by anyone related to the planning committee, such as officers, etc. And whether the chair of the planning committee would note that and say, we can't really make any decision about these sorts of things while it's pending a Section 106 investigation.
I was going to explain about a planning thing in a minute.
So let's just finish this.
I'll go there.
So we'll finish noting the resolutions.
Or just, if I may, Your Worship, that item number 7, which is in my name, which surprises me because it isn't me who actually submits it. That's actually a very positive change for St Dunstan's House. That's to do with the balcony, predominantly, as well as apparently the gutters. But we are now permitted to erect a steel balcony that will be wrapped in timber as opposed to 100% timber balcony, which was the previous conservation officer's
insistence.
Dream. Yes.
Oh, good.
So that is a very positive move forward for the project, because it not only saves us money, but actually finding 6 metre tall lengths of timber to construct that balcony was proving very challenging. So that's just a positive update.
Well done.
Yep.
Well done.
That's the end of your decisions of delegated committees.
So that's the end of noting. Did you want to say something on the Section 106?
Well, is it my turn yet?
Not quite.
No, it's not quite my turn.
Okay. So let's receive updates from advisory committees.
No, Councillor Ronnie Dougal had an update. There haven't been any advisory committee meetings since your last full council meeting. However, I know Councillor Ronnie Dougal wishes to give an update on behalf of the Climate and Ecological Emergency Advisory Committee.
Yep. Councillor Ronnie Dougal, yep.
Okay, so part of what I want to talk about is, if you remember, with Somerset Wildlife Trust, we did a climate action plan for the town. And the Climate Emergency Group agreed 2 actions. One actually came to this council a month or so ago, and that was for the water butts. So the concern about increased rainfall running through to the sewers, deluging the sewage works with water so that the rivers get polluted with the runoff. What the problem we are having, the other one was for planting of trees in the centre of town, because part of the climate action plan was to make sure that the centre of town didn't get too hot in summer, and that tree cover provides shade so that the town will stay a more reasonable temperature. So I agreed to start a tree group to try to do that whilst Laura went off to do the water butts. Now she has stopped doing the water butts because lack of volunteers, lack of energy. It's a really good idea. They were getting people tooled up, but it was like nobody there to do it, lack of volunteers. I tried to get a tree group growing. About half a dozen people said they were in for it. I was advised by Melissa to get Bo Walsh from Somerset Council to advise on trees. Despite numerous emails, Bo Walsh never responded, and I couldn't get people to come to a meeting in order to divvy up the streets for people to look at. Can't do it. Volunteer energy seems to be at an all-time low. It's absolutely exhausting. One can want to do something, but people are suffering from illness, suffering from old age, suffering from too much work. I don't know what to do. You know, we've got what I would call a crisis. Our town has committed to do stuff about it, and it's like we are dependent on volunteers. The town council, the staff are already overcommitted. It doesn't have capacity to go out installing water butts or whatever. We haven't got that. And I don't know what to do. And that's why I needed to say this to the whole council on behalf of the Climate Emergency Group, because that climate adaptation plan was brilliant. We did a really good plan, but we aren't moving it forwards. And we aren't moving it forwards due to lack of energy from people to actually do something positive on behalf of the town in response to the changing climate that we are all experiencing. You know, the flooding and so on. So if we can't do actions, then one thought I had, and this actually relates maybe to the precept leaflet, is I'm putting together a leaflet about what to do with the increased rainfall, and that you can install a water butt, and that you can have semi-permeable membrane on your drive, so that the water, rather than going from tarmac into the drains and flooding the sewage works, would actually go, and so on. So I'm preparing a leaflet. And the last leaflet we did, which was to reduce the energy bill leaflet, which people really liked. I mean, to the point that Street went and put it out, South put it on their website as an example of a really good leaflet, so it could go out to other councils. I was thinking we could maybe get that reprinted and given to ACE, Avalon Community Energy, who have a programme together with the social services that people in energy need, get given a small grant, which comes, if you remember, Sunlit Solar were given £50 for every installation through for that grant. And with that grant, the person could get a leaflet, which would give them ideas on how to reduce their energy. A leaflet about installing water. Is this something, knowing the lack of volunteers, you know, I will be proposing this at the Climate Emergency Group when we next meet, that this council would be willing, because the cost is the delivering of the leaflets. That's the main cost. Printing is relatively little by comparison with getting Royal Mail to hopefully, fingers crossed, actually deliver the leaflets that we create to go out to
Possibly.
But if it went out with the precept leaflet, you know, is this something this council would be willing to think about, considering the trouble that we are having to actually get things moving?
Yeah, good.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Point of order, Chair. As it's been mentioned, I'm a director of Avalon Community Energy.
It's carrying the interest. Celine mentioned it.
I think the answer should be yes. It is something we could think about. And I think we're going to think more broadly about communication, not advertising, but communication with the town. And if we could plan ahead, we can plan what to include, in the
newsletter.
Newsletter by newsletter. I've got Councillor Cook. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Have you considered I mean, you're on the right track. Lack of volunteers. It's not just here. A lot of clubs are having problems with volunteers where there never used to be. So I think, I mean, you've got to look at the state of the world at the minute, haven't you? And the state of people at the minute. And you've got to think, well, why are they going out to do everything for nothing when they need to go out and do anything for some money? So, and I think for us to even rely on that anymore is going to be a hard push for quite a few years now. And it's going to absolutely maintain itself as the standard as well, as we all get older. So the young ones are not going to do it. They're not going to grow up doing it either. So they might later on in life, but that's the problem is money. It's clearly money is the problem. It's the common theme around here. And they need it. So we're not going to be particularly popular when they see this precept increase up to over 1 million. Are they? That's not going to like that one little bit. No. They're not going to like it. They're not councillors, okay? They're the yeah, well, okay. What isn't?
I think we're getting a little distracted. We're getting.
We'll be specific. Don't be all in the dark and mysterious. Well, it's gone up to 1 million now, hasn't it?
9 pence.
That's the total.
1090. What is it? 1,050,000.
1,056,000.
56,000. Sorry, yeah. So 1,056,000 from what was it? 415,000 just 2 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. So people are going to be looking at this and saying, well, why can't we have some of that?
So hold on.
What's this got to do with?
It's a simple
in front of us?
solution. Simple solution. It's something aside.
Thank you. Moving
Thank
on.
you.
Councillor
Your
Cousins.
Worship, bringing us back to trees a moment, I wonder, and I suspect that Councillor Ronan-Duke has already done this, but the Conservation Society has planted many trees over the years, and I wonder whether we or SEAC could have approached them. It might be worthwhile.
Okay, thank you. Are we happy to move on? So next up is Councillor Cotterill.
Me, I haven't got that much this week, month.
Somerset Council hasn't been doing anything.
Yeah, Somerset councillors are gradually creaking up into work. I've obviously had planning. That's been interesting, to say the least. The Glastonbury application was refused. But I'm going to be honest here. I don't believe in not being honest. Is that when it goes to appeal, which it will, it's going to be very, very difficult for the officers to defend. So I would expect possibly that you'll get to those 24 houses, whether you want them or not. But we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be difficult for the officers to defend that decision. So that was one thing. We've got a few others. Planning is difficult. The government have changed the rules a little bit. So that's going on. I've been really busy with casework, as you would expect this time of the year, and it's getting worse and worse and more, and people are really, really, really struggling. And not, it's, I don't know what we can do about it, really. It's there just aren't enough services wherever we look. Like what I can't tell you personal stories, but it's honestly it's heartbreaking to see some of it and what's going on, and it's not really that the officers don't want to help. They try to help, like adult, social services and stuff like that, and housing is another big one. And it is a nightmare that's come about, and I'm going to say it's come about over the last 15 to 20 years with different governments. And I'm not just going to say the Tory government, with different governments caused these.
Labour aren't here, though. Labour aren't here.
No, they're not, are they? No. So yeah, it is pretty bad. And obviously, recently, my own group and cross-party group as well have been looking at the boundary changes. Interesting proposals. I'm not at liberty to say what they are, but if what was proposed, which my group at the county have rejected, but that doesn't mean it'll still go through, is interesting for Glastonbury. Okay, that's all I can really say, and it will be very interesting. I might tell you privately later, but yeah.
How much later? How much later?
Well, when I know for certain, there's more stuff to go on.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll take some questions if you like.
So you got a couple of questions from Councillor Henderson, Councillor Cousins, and Councillor Smythe.
Chair. I think you've got better things to talk about than boundary moving, Nick, really.
Not really.
Not that important.
Oh, no.
Be honest, put your energies into something else. All I was going to ask about the Glastonbury planning application, as well as the big application for several houses.
24 houses.
Which we didn't discuss. There was also, support me in this if I'm wrong, there was also an application that seemed to encroach on this bit of land that we're talking about, that we think the town council was gifted, or in 106.
Haven't seen that.
It was a house that's already there that was extending their garden and their drive into that bit of land. Oh. Now we sort of didn't discuss it, but we did, and we said we thought this was a precedent, if allowed, could encourage other people to start trying to.
Well,
so I think you need to look at that 106 agreement and make sure that we know what our responsibilities are and what, if that does fall under the town council's jurisdiction, we need to know.
So what you're saying is that you think some land that is gifted to...
It's part of a 106 agreement.
Yeah.
By the Pear Tree Farm
development. It's actually...
Stock.
And it's given to here that somebody there has already started encroaching.
They tried to.
I'll get that looked at because of somewhere else that's been happening. Okay, that one's fine. Yeah, we can get that done. Looked at, definitely. No problem.
Councillor Cousins?
Oh, what I think Councillor Henderson was trying to say is that we didn't formally discuss this in the meeting.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, we're Glastonbury Town Council didn't have an interest in it. But this house that is encroaching into this piece of land, many people are concerned about this because it could set a precedent for development on that land. And at the moment, the ownership of that land is in question because you may recall it was offered to Glastonbury Town Council as part of the Section 106.
I know the owner, come on,
It would be very useful, I think, for the Section 106 officer or still officer, whatever you call them these days, to actually research this. And I know that Connor's in touch with you about it, but this has been a long time now with not being clear. And it would also enable us to know as a planning committee on this council whether or not we can speak to it, because obviously we are careful around it if we actually end up owning the land. And I'm conscious you can make a planning application even though you don't own the land, but it would be unfortunate if that planning permission was granted and then a development happened only to find out that the land that it was on belongs to us.
Yeah, okay, John,
It's different land, that land.
Yeah, that's a bit of a complicated one that you've just said.
There's the application there, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to need to... What's an application for?
Change use of agricultural land to
right,
extend the garden and create
I haven't seen that because that's a bit lower down my pay grade. Okay, to be quite truthful with you, that doesn't come to me. So I'll have to go and have a look for that one tomorrow and make sure that doesn't happen. and we get a 106.
Well, Nick, I'm not sure whether you can decide whether it doesn't happen, but I think that
I can.
Before it comes to committee or decision, the Section 106 issue should be resolved so that we are aware of who owns the land.
But there is also the thing, as we said, that anybody can apply for an application on anybody's land. Doesn't matter, they can apply to put it in the car park here. But that's a bit suspicious, and I want to see. I'll go and have a look as well to see where it is.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bringing that to my attention, because I wouldn't. The officers probably wouldn't have even told me about it.
So I've got Councillor Smythe and then Councillor Don Francesco.
Sit down now, Nick, if you like, for a little.
Thank you. Well, I'm beginning to struggle a bit.
Okay.
Right. So it's unfortunate that you brought this planning application up, because we still haven't had answers to the questions that were raised, because the process was very questionable. In that, on the 3rd of December, the planning application was refused for both the 24 houses down the Pear Tree Farm in Glastonbury, and also the one Gypsy Lane in Wells. Both of those were refused on the 3rd of December. That same day, 3 other applications were either accepted or 2 were accepted, 1 was deferred, I believe. Now, part of the planning law states that the decision hasn't been made until communicated. That is correct, isn't it? It has to be communicated to fulfil the whole process. Now, the question that I had then, and I'm asking again now,
that's me.
Not only on behalf of the Gypsy Lane, but on behalf of the Glastonbury application, is how is it that those three decisions were conveyed on the 5th of December, and that ours wasn't conveyed at all until way after the 12th of December, when the national government made a new announcement on national planning policy, which meant that it gave more weight to developers in that situation. To me, all those decisions should have been conveyed simultaneously and much before the 12th of December. It seems to me that someone somewhere suspected that there was going to be an announcement made which meant that they could actually look at them again. Furthermore, the decisions weren't conveyed on the 3rd of December. The result of the 3rd of December wasn't conveyed until way after the meeting last week or the week before. I just want to know why.
Okay. I'm going to give you.
Not know.
Right.
But it just seems also that the objectors to the proposals on the Glastonbury site weren't directly informed about the meeting of 2 weeks ago, although I know it was given 5 days notice to the public. And the only reason that we weren't able to make a representation is because the clerk, Sarah, informed us. I think it's only fair that those questions are answered not only to ourselves, but the Gypsy Lane application as well, but not now. I don't think there's
I'm just going to tell you something, okay, because it's only right that it has. I've asked the same question, and I asked the question before, and I haven't got an answer as of yet. There are 2 officers who can possibly give me the answer, and they're not the ones who are based at East, okay? Because it does seem to me rather strange that didn't go out at the same time. So yeah, I will, as soon as I get an answer, I will give it to you.
One of the reasons why the committee felt bold enough to stick to their original refusal was because, again, the fact of the emerging neighbourhood plan and the exploration of World Heritage Site was taking place in Glastonbury, and so that had a small weight to their decision.
I wouldn't go too far with the World Heritage Site. I don't, but it was good. I think you brought it up. Was it in yours, or was it you? Yeah. I'm not really sure if that had any weight.
An observation.
Yeah, an observation. Yeah, Lindsay.
So the national planning policy framework.
Yeah, and
paragraphs and everything. 13 says, any harm to or loss and all that sort of thing, substantial harm, loss, to, and it says grade 2, grade 1, grade 2, all that sort of thing, and World Heritage Sites should be wholly exceptional.
It's not a World Heritage Site, is it?
Well, but if it's...
No, but it's not.
It isn't.
And we're a very, very long way from being a World Heritage Site.
So the fact that we're proposing it...
No, but you can't take that into consideration because we're not a World Heritage Site.
We should be moving on.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Councillor Cottle for his... any other questions to Councillor Cottle?
Very quickly, I hear rumour of potholes and Magdalen Street. Is this true, and do we have a date?
Right, Sam.
A pothole where? A massive one?
Yes, the entirety of
Magdalen Street is complete. I believe they're coming. I sent an extra email that somebody had sent me through to Highways who explained about the drainage system.
The drainage first,
yeah. I was a guy called Greg, very good stuff. And send it through, and apparently they are looking at this now. They've taken it on board, but they didn't take it on board when he said it in the beginning, which was not as what I can see from an email trail. But
they are definitely...
They are looking at it now, I believe.
Because they've got to do the drainage before they can...
They got to do the drainage before they can do the surface, because it's a bit pointless otherwise, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Cheers. Okay, Lindsay, you want to come back?
On this one, I've been to an LCM Highways group meeting.
Oh, waste of time.
Yes. They are known to do that.
Yeah.
I presume it's by the end of the financial year. They haven't done it already.
Okay.
It was supposed to have been done before Christmas.
Before April.
Yeah.
Okay, last.
Okay, yeah, Lily.
Right, sit down. Sit down. Right. Just to let you know, the blue notes have gone out to everybody.
Thank you.
Through this meeting, and there is on it two things that might be of interest. One is a link to the PSPO discussion in form amended, which I think we will have some interest in, and also the boundary changes. It's not Nick's secret squirrel stuff, but there is a link that you can find a lot more.
Thanks.
There won't be very many happy people.
Cool.
Some of us might be.
So we can read the blue update when we get home at leisure. Thank you very much.
Exciting.
We're happy to move on to item 17. Any updates from lead councillors or representatives to outside bodies?
Oh,
that might be you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Town deal.
Yeah, some town deal stuff. Well, if you've had a look round the back here lately, you'll notice a lot of the scaffolding has come down on this north wall, and it looks really quite beautiful. The Abbey, they're a bit sort of slow, as one might expect, and their containers, the site offices, are likely to be there till the end of March. One thing, following a conversation this morning, I went to Tor Leisure on the way home from the market. Met the new manager, had a book shown around, and I went, wow. So that will be the first of the town deal projects to complete. So I think that, like at the moment, the bar is open a few hours in the evenings. They're doing soft walk-arounds with people. They've got new toilets inside. So like on the playing field side, you've got ramps going up into the different things, the reception's built, the toilets. There's a complete changing places toilet in there.
Very good.
So we're going to have like one here, one in St John's car park, and that one as well.
How about the gym?
Right, so the gym, the room is ready. The data connectors are there for downloading all the programs, so you can run through the desert or climb Everest or whatever you want. The equipment is due to come soon, so they're ready for it. Sweat the floor. The weights are coming soon, so there's going to be a couple of different studios. Really, really nice. There's a little bit more landscaping to go. They've thrown some grass seeds out, and that's all just sort of bubbling away under the water, but really very nice. So I think they're going to do some sort of opening, probably March, but it's very, very near. But that will be the first of the projects to go.
That's good.
Yes.
I'll highlight that one.
Really? Red brick. Building C.
Building C.
Okay.
Are there any tradesmen still unpaid? Because they're ringing me and saying they are.
I believe that most of the bills had been paid, and there was one that, or a contract that was in dispute or in consultation. As far as I know, everything else is done. They've made it safe, so this is the building C part, where it abuts on the building B wall. So that the gable ends have been sealed and stuff like that.
Still ain't got a roof.
No. No.
I mean, you know, I'm not being picky, but I actually think a roof is quite an important component.
Yeah, but the town deal bit is only the building C bit. Yeah, Paul?
Add that.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I know of one local firm that has not been paid.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's the one that's still in discussion.
More than one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other town deal updates?
No. Bridesmount, I believe they'll be starting on the roundhouse soon. Is that correct?
So, as always, things get delayed. The clerk of works, no, the contact administrator, the tenders went out. We've had 3 responses, and they are being interviewed, and we should have one in place by the end of the month, when they will then be doing the contract with the roundhouse company. Water is connected. National Grid will be connecting at the end of the month, so then there will be electricity on site. And Roundhouse Company are hoping, aiming, fingers crossed, to have the building all up and running by August, September.
Oh, cool. Well done.
But everything gets delayed, so it might well be delayed, but we will certainly be done within the deadline of March 26th. And again, fingers crossed, it's all going to come within budget.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Yeah.
Bloody amazing.
Anything else on town deal? Any other? Paul?
Add a bit on Bailey's.
Big
Bailey's. Last week we put up a new fence along the back. We've just acquired some more land from Somerset Council, which is going to be our car park, and there's now a fence, virtually the whole length of the back of the building, basically to separate the traveller site from ourselves, and it means we can then start work on the car park.
Thanks. Well done, Paul.
So any other updates from other outside bodies? Nope. Great. So Mayor's announcements, that's me. So it's kind of been Christmas and New Year since last month. So quite a few religious things. One thing I did was I went to, St John's is choosing a new vicar. They had a whole congregational dialogue amongst themselves. But on Sunday I went to St John's to participate in that and just say my little piece about the new vicar. I think it's a slow process, and we'll be lucky if he's here before Christmas.
Wow.
But wait and see. It's in process very slowly. Participated in cutting the Holy Thorn, going to King Charles, I think for the first time. It always went on Queen Elizabeth's breakfast table. Our Holy Thorn apparently was going to end up in King Charles's office desk. So even more in the centre of, the administration, who knows? I went with Margaret to a discussion about the World Heritage Site. Sidika was there in the assembly rooms. And I went with Mike to a meeting as the Planning Board of Somerset to speak about Pear Tree Farm. And I went to the Christmas lunch for the first time. It's an extraordinary event. I'd never been part of it before, but a really impressive event, the Christmas lunch. Full-on Christmas dinner for hundreds of people, with all the trimmings and everything. Really nice atmosphere. One thing I'm doing is organising a concert, a fundraising concert for my mayor's charity, which is the Glastonbury Mental Health Network. So I'd like to give you copies of the flyer. It's the 15th of February, and I'm hoping it'll promote interfaith as well as raise funds. So it's going to be in St John's Church, and it's going to be 4 different religious traditions, all kind of making music to praise their version of divinity. So there'll be Christians singing anthems, Hindus singing bhajans, Sufis singing zikir, and a goddess worshipper singing goddess chants. So quite a bold move for St John's, because they do like to stick to Christianity in the church, but they've said they're willing to have this fourfold concert in St John's, and I'm hoping it will raise some money for the charity. I think that's it for me. Oh, the last thing is, with the Pilgrim Reception Centre, I've been doing a radio programme profiling different spiritual leaders from Glastonbury. We've made 13 different programmes for 13 different individuals. They all went out over the late autumn, but they liked it so much they're going to get rebroadcast on GFM, GWS, starting next week. So that'll be another 13 profiles of our local religious leaders. That's it, I think. Yeah.
That's good. Well done.
Oh, Councillor Osborne, thank you.
I don't know if this is the right place to bring this up, but because you will have to be involved if it goes through, I think perhaps I ought to, I'm going to bring up at ACE tomorrow. The 27th of January is Holocaust Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not something that is on our calendar. And I know it's short notice, but given that you have done so much for interfaith and the fact that we have such a large traveller community in this town and so many travellers were killed in the Holocaust, I think it's actually really important that we actually mark it.
Okay,
see that.
Thank you.
Romanies, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Cousins?
I was given a Roma Gypsy flag by a member of the Gypsy community a while ago, who asked whether on Holocaust Memorial we could fly that from the town hall to show our support.
Opry Rom. Sorry. Up the Roma. Opry Rom.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether that could be in the mind of this council, because I'm not sure if it's one that we'd have to apply for permission to Secretary of State or someone to fly, but it would certainly be a very fitting thing to do.
27th of January is quite soon, but we can look into it. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Correspondence, communications and announcements. Do we have any?
The only item of correspondence that I haven't already raised, Your Worship, that I want to raise, I'm sure everyone's already seen it and heard about it, but David Greenway has tendered his resignation / retirement as the town crier.
Yeah.
No, he needs a break.
He does, yeah.
So it's a decision for the town council to make what it wants to do now, and what I would suggest is that you start as members having a think, and that at the next meeting it's an agenda item and we consider what we would like to do. So I'm in the process of finding out from other places how one might recruit a town crier, getting documentation from the Guild of Town Criers in terms of like a job spec, person spec, etc., etc. But it'll be something for our next meeting. And I just want to correct something. I made a comment on social media which was about the potential cost of a town crier, and I just wanted to clarify that actually David has never received a penny from the town council. I was under the impression it was one of the honorary roles, like the bagpiper, drummer, etc., etc., that gets a payment for each civic appearance. But actually, David Greenway has never, ever had a payment. That's something that the town council can consider, because obviously he at that time, I believe the arrangement at the time, speaking to members of staff who've been here much longer than I have, the arrangement was that we had David Greenway's regalia made, in return that he didn't receive a payment for conducting the role. Now, he has returned that regalia. I will have to source a bell, because he was given that particular bell and has chosen to keep it. So that's for the next meeting, but I just wanted to raise it here in the full council meeting. He only posted it on social media after I got to reply to his email, but I didn't realise he was going to post it out publicly, but that's completely his prerogative. I thanked him personally, and I did take the liberty of thanking him on behalf of the town council. However, that too is perhaps something that you might wish to consider when we consider the role, because he has done it for just over 10 years.
Wow.
So that's something that's coming to your February meeting. That's the only bit of correspondence I wish to raise, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor, when you do
I would definitely like to propose we give a big thank you to David. He's been an absolutely amazing town crier.
Yeah.
I think a whole crate of the best brandy or something like that. I mean, a really big thank you.
Yeah.
Because he has been absolutely fantastic as a town crier.
Yep. Okay, that's something for next month. Great. Any items for news release?
You guys tell me.
I want to promote my concert, but I'm doing that already. It is a kind of interfaith thing. It's a little bit newsworthy, I think.
Yeah, definitely. You might even drag me in with church.
Well, there you go. Councillor Cottle announces the intention to...
Won't let you in.
The precept?
The precept?
Yep.
Thank you. John?
Well, Your Worship, perhaps we should be making a press release about the fact that we're going to convene a working group to look at the merit or not of World Heritage status for the town.
Yeah,
yes. Yep. Yep. Any other items for news release?
Possibly an update on the various projects under the deal. Is that? Lots of people keep asking me what's happening, and
That would be something I wonder, Councillor White, if you could feed that back to the programme team and maybe get the town deal to issue a release on progress across the different projects.
Yeah, those come through Somerset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That because Councillor Much has mentioned it, but it's not really for us to make that announcement, Councillor Much.
Okay, and to review actions arising from the meeting.
So I started with my green pen, haven't continued it all the way through. So in terms of the Wood Heritage Status Working Group, that has been, the terms of reference have been agreed, the councillor membership has been agreed, and I will work with Councillor Cousins on the information to go online to promote that opportunity for the public to apply to. So that should be, I won't necessarily commit to it being up tomorrow, but by the end of the week, once Councillor Cousins and I have been able to get our heads together. Going through the agenda, we've obviously agreed the budget. I will submit the precept demand to Somerset Council and begin work on the precept leaflet. If there are councillors who are interested in either seeing a draft, contributing toward it, please do let me know. Ideally, I want to have it done before the next meeting of full council so that we can get it on doorsteps at the same time or before people receive their bills. If I bring it back to the February meeting, it all gets pushed back a bit. So do let me know if you want to help me and contribute to that. We are going to start promoting the awards for the annual town meeting, as well as the annual town meeting. My plan in terms of the precept leaflet would be certainly to try and take us a bit of space to promote the fact that the annual town meeting happens. And also I wonder, I'm not sure how easy it would be to include that entire energy efficiency leaflet, but I will see what I can maybe do, even just pointing people to where they might be able to go and pick one up, or condensing it down to a few bullet points with a link to get some more information, something along those lines. I will certainly try my best, because the larger your leaflet is, the more it costs to distribute. I think that in terms of the actions, Your Worship, other than any actions arising from just operational decisions, they're the ones I've put a green star next to, and also the news releases.
Thank you very much.
All three of them.
So last is the date of the next meeting, second Tuesday in February, the 11th of February.
Very much.
That's the end of the meeting.
Well done.
The meeting is closed.
That's not bad as well, 9:30.
That's 9, yeah.
Well done.